All right, welcome to the Stampscapes Friday Night Live lab here. I have a situation here where I've utilized a lot of the Mystic imagery from the 2023 release and did it in kind of a foundation of these purplish pink foliage colors here because I want to add a lot of pink to them. I want to try out some of these pink glitter, chunky glitters here. I laugh because I wouldn't have seen myself using glitter. I don't know when, maybe even as recent as I don't know, maybe a year and a half ago, I would say. I think I would be open to it last year. Having experimented with a lot more things in the last recent 2 years or so. But there's a lot of different pinks here, okay? And I've seen different types of, I don't know, like Asian types of paintings where there's a lot of, or photos where there's a lot of like cherry blossoms or something like that in the background, or at the foot of Mount Fuji or something like that. A lot of them are just, they're not really photographs, but I think they're manipulated in, Photoshop or something like that. But nevertheless, they look really cool. So I've done a foundation of those types of colors like that in here. And in the spirit of kind of experimentation and really pushing the, I don't know, kind of the effects of it, we have this lower section as a reflection body of water down here and formatted into a reflection card. Okay, so one of the things I haven't done in a reflection card in a while, I haven't done a lot of blocking out with white pigment ink and then stamping over the top of it with imagery. I'm kind of avoiding doing some of that because you can see, now if I mask this off a little more carefully, I won't get this overspray in here, but you can see this foil down here. Hopefully you can see kind of the different, kind of tones of it, or the different reflective quality of it. Let's see if I have another piece of here. See, this is how it looks, okay? But this is how it looks sprayed. So it's a little bit more frosted here because you get that overspray of the spray sealant, which I used workable fixative on this, and it lays down on here, and it gets it a little bit more frosted and less reflective as a result. Okay, now I had to do that because the white ink that I use down here is Brilliance ink, which dries on here, but it won't adhere to it, okay? I stamped out my imagery over the top of it, though, in StazOn. And the thing about it, the StazOn, to me, I am convinced that the StazOn penetrated the white ink and kind of locked it down a little bit in there, because when I laid down some of the white, there was, some of the white went up here. And then after I stamp everything out, what I do is I wipe off the excess white around it, and I was able to just wipe right into the black impressions right here. And the black impressions didn't come out. So if they were just sitting on top of floating white, the black impression areas that I wiped would have wiped off. Okay, so it was pretty good for that. Okay, so I want to color this, but I don't know if I can. If I try to color these with colored pencils, while this is locked down and it's not going anywhere with just, a touch, if I color onto that with a sharp, waxy colored pencil, it might scrape off the white in there, okay? Because I don't want to give this a big slathering of spray sealant, because I just want it to lock it down where it's not going to come off on my finger. It's not going to wipe off if you touch it, okay? But I don't want to spray in here so much that this other open area is going to be completely non-reflective. Let's see what we have here. If you're on Facebook, sorry I don't have a message window for that, but hello on all kind of platforms here. Hello, Bugs, Froggy, Cynthia, Linda, Ginger, Kay. Good to see you all. Oh, your kid's in marching band. My son was in band, but he dropped out. He wasn't doing marching band, though, because, the marching band, they did some talks and in like 8th grade or something like that going into it, or maybe it might have been freshman year. No, I think it was 8th grade. And they got to perform, with the high schoolers, and they were talking about the time commitment and stuff like that, and the weekends and performances and competitions and football games. It's like they were trying to sell it like, hey, this is going to be a lot of fun. There's a lot of camaraderie. My son said, forget that, man. But I would have been out there helping out with the boosters and everything like that. Anyway, happy Friday to everyone. Oh, sorry about the doggy. I just read down on that, Froggy. Which dog? And hello, Debbie. Okay, so I'm going to finish off. I still need to do a little bit of stamping. I stamped this out of the live because I didn't want to take forever, setting up this card scenario here. So I want the focus to be on kind of the effects of that glitter. When I get into one of these things, I'm gonna do a deep dive into something, especially if I like kind of aspects of the first few kind of experiments, and it seems like, this seems like something that I could want to be using. Okay, so I'm stamping some oak branches here in the foreground a little bit. You can't really see it because it's black against dark like that on silver, but if you have something reflected in here, right, that's lighter than that, see, that branch will show up a little bit more, even though that's reflecting down here, so you don't see too much of it, but you see a little bit more. So remember, you have to kind of think about it in context. Okay, so let me put another one right over here. And I'm putting some extra texture into this lower section in the event that I can't color or add some additional tone to those rocks down there. I'm really enjoying using the rocks from that desert series. It's like, you can use them in water, they can be in dirt or whatever, but they're a really great kind of transitional image. See, this is just using it without doing the blocking out, so you get that foil just showing right through them, so they don't stand out as much as these ones do. But I really like using them. So this glitter's been pretty exciting for me. I think it's a little bit of a... It's kind of a departure in terms of... the spirit in which I apply things, though. I think that's, I don't know, that occurred to me like a little while ago. I think I like to apply things in kind of a little bit more subtlety. So you see those branches on each side like that. But the foil, the glitter types of things, the glow-in-the-darks, it's kind of, I'm having to be... I guess because it's a bolder thing, I feel like I'm having to apply things a little bit more heavy-handed, and there's not as much subtlety in it because it has to stand out, in order to be effective. So like on something like this, I just put a few down on there originally, but then it was like, I don't get enough kind of that twinkly light, okay, on this one. So it's like I probably used like 5 times as much as I thought I was going into this card. Now, and also one of those things, I just looked at this like 5 minutes ago. It was, I had this on my floor next to my thing. I not on the floor, but it's in this pile of other scenes that I've done. But in lower light, it was really kind of twinkly as I kind of walked from one place to another. It's like, oh, okay, that's what I wanted. So with these lights in here, it's kind of flooding in out because I have light coming from this way and this way. So I think these pieces look a lot cooler looking, just with a little bit less light, kind of indirect lighting. And that was like, you can see a lot of different colors too in it. That's what I was kind of hoping for, but under this lighting situation right here, everything's kind of uniform like that. Like they're all green, they're all kind of purplish and gold like that. So it looks really cool though. And you can see the reflection area down below on this one. But yeah, it's being, it's really applying a good slathering of these things. which I'm not used to doing. I'm used to doing kind of a little bit more of a subtle type of treatment of it. And I don't know, learning as I go here. Okay, so I need to add a little bit more body to this right here. We need to make our forms a lot more rounded and opaque, especially for that reflected area down there. So, okay, now normally I like using, okay, some of my trees in here are still wet. I need to watch that and be careful about that. But I like using watercolor pencils in this area and going into it, but I'm just going to do something really fast with it. So we're just going to stick with the colored pencils because I want to get to that glitter treatment in there. Yeah. If your kid's in band, so if they're in marching band, they're also in concert band too, right? So it's like marching band, and then if you're in marching band, you're not taking PE. So my son, he had a little fallout with one of the assistant directors. This guy was nuts. When he was doing like one of those after school bands, he was in percussion, the percussion group. And anyways, there was a big, I don't know, the guy lied about kind of the time commitment going into it. I think he was in his first year, and there was a big kind of fiasco with that. And so my son did end up just dropping out of band. But when he did that, I was like, oh, that's really too bad. You know, we've had him in music like his whole, childhood, with drums and guitar and piano lessons and all that type of thing. But then it's like, oh, he's dropping out. It's like, which dropped me out of kind of the music boosters and all that volunteering. So it's like anytime he's dropped out of something, I was always doing a lot of volunteer stuff with, all of his events. And so it's like, oh, I'm out of it too. Which some of it, I didn't mind after the initial kind of shock. Okay, so on these Mystic Mountains, I'm shading from the top down. I usually shade it from the bottom up, and usually the top parts of the peaks, closer to the light source are lighter. But on this one, I usually have this kind of fog in between all my different objects in here. Now this is a big area in here of negative space, where the images aren't in there. If I was just doing a scene only with that, using other types of images, I would have a tendency of filling in like this. But having this negative space in here is going to create a little bit more of a contrast, like say between this background hill and this area in here. And that reads better in your reflection areas down there. See this area in here, like this tree right here. See that right in there? Well, that tree really stands out in the reflection area very clear because this area in here isn't filled in with stuff. When you fill in with all, a bunch of different things in reflection cards, you can't see the everything merges into one, so you can't see like foreground from background or reflection very well. And you can't see, there's not a lot of differentiation between the images. So you want that reflected area, objects, I should say, nice and clear and crisp, or, standing out a little bit more in contrast. So it's kind of good because, if you don't, it takes the, it makes, there's less work to do up here. In this top section for it to look better. So you do less for kind of a better, more effective look. Did I say hello, Bill? Hello, Bill and Jeannie. Oh, it's your St. Bernard. A thorn in her eye. What the heck is going on there? How did it get that? Go running into a bush or something like that? Well, I take it's the Saint. You only have one Saint Bernard, right? It's the Bernard that I've seen in the Facebook posts. I hope he gets better. Or compensates, whatever. Hello, Christine. Yeah, a needle in the eye. That doesn't sound too good. Trombone for marching band. I play saxophone for fun. What do you play? Do you play what sax? I take it alto or tenor. All right, so adding in right here. Now these mountains are just, they're not going to reflect in that lower section really at all. Anytime you get a certain number of inches away from that, kind of that intersection of foil, mirrored foil and the imagery, you don't really see this too much. So you're just kind of doing this for, viewing straight on. So I'm going for a little bit more up top. I'm trying to transition this application of black in this case. So I'm going a little bit heavier up top like this. And then as I kind of move down into this lower area, I'm using less pressure and, a thinner application. Of the black colored pencil. This is on a semi-gloss cardstock too, so if you don't want to use colored pencil, you can use chalks or something like that, pastels, and that would work on here really nicely. When I tend to do colored pencil though, I don't really feel the need to spray seal it with anything, unless I'm just doing it for kind of protection's sake. If you're going to do a card and it's going to be on display and there's going to be people kind of handling it, you might want to put a small sealant across this just to protect from things like fingerprints. But colored pencils you don't really need to lock down, whereas chalks or pastels, it's probably a good idea to lock it down, especially on this, more sealed off type of paper. If you're using matte, maybe not, matte cardstock, but this semi-gloss it's a fairly smooth one. Not like glossy or anything like that. It's much closer to matte than glossy, but it's, it's in the middle. I'm going to say this periodically, but if you're on Facebook and checking out the live on that platform, I can't see anyone's comments. I can only see the YouTube comments here. I say that because sometimes I log on to the Facebook and it's recorded on there, and there are people saying, "Hey," or asking questions or something like that. Okay, so anyways, you see those mountains look a little bit more dimensional like that. Okay, so let's do the same type of thing on these rocks down here and this one right here. I tried to make this a little bit more like it's in fog and mist, so you can see that's stamped out in black, but I wiped off a lot of the ink before I made the impression, so it looks farther off in the distance. So I won't use the same kind of intensity of or application of black that I use on these more foreground rocks right here. And again, I really like kind of adding this kind of lighting and light and shade to these rocks and dimension to it. So I'm really hoping that I can add at least a little bit of an application to the ones down here. I already adhered this to the card base, by the way. Okay, this is the area where the rocks go down into that reflected area. And I say this on all my reflection cards as I'm doing them, but I'd like to have this area, the contact point between this and the reflection area. I think it looks better to have these objects down here close to that that merger of the two mediums. I like to have it darker because I think it kind of transitions into them, each other, a little bit more gracefully that way. I don't know. Maybe it hides kind of the. It probably hides, obscures that harsh kind of surface contrast a little bit more, especially if you're going with something like a white over silver. Now, if we have silver up here and we have a scene up there, silver and silver is not going to be any big deal. Or like a holographic, which is silvery. If you have something like this, transitioning into that lower section, it's a little bit more of a, look how cool that looks right there, down in those reflection areas. But see, this is kind of metallic and silver, so you wouldn't need to change it too much because this totally looks like this already. Look at this. You can have a vase like this, and then, you can have like 3 different things in here. So it's like, you can have a winter scene or something like that, and you just, if you don't want to change the base, or you send it to someone, so in the winter they can put something like this up here, and you can have a spring scene, and they can pop it in like that or something like that. You'd have some kind of thing to, kind of lock it down a little bit, but it'd be kind of cool to have some kind of interchangeable type of, scenario like that you can use with that lower base. Okay, going a little bit more. So I just add on a little bit at a time. I don't go super dark right away. Okay, so I'm just kind of toning out this lower section here a little at a time. Because, I might get to a point where it's like, okay, that's enough. So it's like a 40% gray or something like that. If I, deem that it's kind of the ideal darkness on that shadow right there, but I've already gone all the way to like 90% or something like that, then I'm kind of stuck with it. So I like to see how it looks a little bit at a time like this, okay? You can have a lot more control of it over something, kind of the end result, if you just kind of take it, a little bit at a time, so you can see, you can kind of have a good idea of the differences. And I say that, anytime, someone has like some kind of issue, it's not necessarily a colored pencil or something like that, but a lot of times with color blending or anything like that, if anyone runs into problems, a lot of times it's just the speed at which the application speed is a lot faster than mine. So if someone says, "Oh my God, I'm so heavy-handed," I hear that all the time, especially not so much with colored pencils, but with dye-based inks. It's because I might be adding, imagine this is like a black that I'm using. I'm tapping it on or blending it on with a paper towel or cotton ball or whatever on a piece of paper like this. I'm putting a little bit down at a time. But some people do this right off the bat, which you can do. It's a lot more spontaneous looking, and you can get a lot more of the texturing and energy of something like that, okay? But there's less control of it, unless you've been practicing with something for a long time and you really got the feel of it. I find it's much easier just to kind of apply, a much lighter application, and then just to, apply more accordingly, based on what you see kind of happening and how much you want of that given, medium or color, value, whatever, temperature of your ink, pencil, anything. I find myself saying the same thing all the time. It's basically just do it nice and slowly, And that's what I do. If a scene, the scene becomes darker. Oftentimes, I get it though. People see the end result, so they see, a dark blue somewhere, and but they don't know that I kind of went through lighter blues first and just kind of gradually built up to it. And it's not just for the sake of speed and, the carefulness of application, but the more kind of layers you work through of different tones, the palette and the end result becomes much more richer looking, because of the layering that you've done. And I'll layer some other colors in here. I'm just going with the black right now here. Okay, so remember when I was talking about that contrast? So I'm cutting down, see right up here. I'm adding a little bit more tone right in here. Like so. Okay. And that's just like a 20% gray or something like that. So right in here, okay, so it's a little bit darker there. So see how that stands out a little bit more? And it's right here, okay? In that reflective area right here. See that right there? So it gives it a little bit more body. Now right up here I have some, I'm kind of coloring the tops of things, top, but it's somewhere along the line, see, I have these tops of these rocks in here that are lighter, and I don't want to color in the tops of those ones though. Maybe where rock meets open area, maybe I'll put a little bit on that, but this is where you just kind of, you have to just make an executive decision. I'm going to leave, this one's going to be top lit, and these ones are going to be bottom lit or something like that, to me, I don't know. I don't think there's a mistake. It's just, you just kind of make a decision and just go with it, but kind of oscillate it, have a little bit of both in there in those areas if you ever have any questions or you're kind of puzzled as to what to do. I just have a little bit of both in there. All right, so that's kind of the gist of the, the shading right here. Let's see. Yeah, most of you didn't miss anything in the beginning, okay? Froggy Fresh plays the alto. That's what my brother played. Hello, Knox. Christine, you didn't miss the beginning because I just did it off screen, but I colored my trees directly on the stamp. Wherever it is. Basically with these two pens right here, okay? So I lay down the purple first, and then I went into it with the pink. A lot of the pink's not showing. The pink showed more when I stamped it, but this ink was still wet, and it just dried, as a matter of fact, I think, right as I was adding the colored pencil in here, okay? But that's just going to be my base because I'm going to use a lot of paint pens over the top of it, okay? Hello, Patty. Thorn in the eye. Yeah. That poor pooch got a thorn in its eye. Okay, so that was the black. Now I'm not going to take too much time here, but I want to just add a little bit of richness to it because just straight grayscale, I think it looks okay just if you're only doing grayscale, but we're going to have colors in here. So I want to add a little bit of warmth to my shadows, and this is the way you can do it. You can do it in whatever color scheme you're doing. If it was a sunset scene over the mountains, and we had oranges and reds and things like ochre, then I would typically add those tones into my shadow areas. So I'd give them real warmth, warm toned shadows. Okay, temperature in there. If it's a blue colored scheme and it's at winter or nighttime or something like that, then I would be adding, blues into my shadows. Okay. Typically, I mean, you can contrast temperatures in your scenes too. You can have warm shadows and, cool night, skies or something like that if you want to too. But I added a little bit of this olive brown, I think. Yeah, olive brown right here is a little bit in my rock areas down here too, inherently. So this kind of brownish tinge in my black kind of goes along with that, general, I don't know, whatever, hue. All right, and one of the colors that kind of goes well, and plus is if there's pink blossoms in the tree or something like that, it would be green for spring. So let's go with a few different values, I guess, and temperatures of green right here. So yeah, these are two mid-tone greens, because remember, I'm not really shading with them because I already shaded with the black. So I don't need to go with anything like really dark, like a bottle green or something like that. I can barely see this green, but that's the way I'm applying it, though. I can get a more definitive look of it, but again, I just want to kind of apply it just to get a feel of the gist of it and how it's going to look. Because I know what it's going to look like on a white piece of paper, but when you're applying it over gray and, the colors that you've already laid down, it might not be, that tone of green anymore. In this case, it's olive green here. So like that. I brought out a little bit of a warmer one because I knew that one would probably stand out more. Let's say it's warm up. Yeah, I was talking about warming up my warm shadows, So a little bit of green in there. So it kind of makes that area glow a little bit more. And that's what I was talking about. If you go on too heavy with the black or something like that too, right off the bat, then I might not have the opportunity to have, some of these other colors that I was going to use later on kind of, be effective. Because you wouldn't be able to see it, this warm light green over black, like solid black, like a, 95% gray or whatever. It just wouldn't show up. So you can apply this, and you can always go darker, right? It's like adding salt to food. You can always add more, but don't add too much right off the bat. So we're going to color to taste. All right, but see this kind of area, it's kind of glowing a little bit more. And here's a little bit of a darker green, and I'll use some of that in my shadows down here. At least in some of these darker areas of these rocks, again, in that transition area. And you can always add more black if you want to. Okay, let's take a look and see what this looks like in our reflection area like that. Okay, now, when you're doing these reflection cards, you get a lot of this light reflecting up in here. So this area in here, so my shadows in here look fine to me like that. But when I go like this, you get the light hitting it from above, but you also get the light hitting it from this silver, base like this. Okay, you can see my lights here like that. So I need to adjust a little bit more and go a little bit, or I don't know, some degree darker, okay? I mean, you don't have to. I mean, you're not going to have like maybe as much light hitting that card unless they're looking at it outside or something like that. I'm talking about the recipient of your card or us looking at it. But just going a little bit deeper. Okay, I think that should do it there. Okay. All right, and I think we had a decent amount of reflection down there, like so. Let's see, what color did I use on the trees? It might be my screen, but the trees almost look, they are purple, Rachel. Your otter eyes are not deceiving you. This is going to be a pink springtime in the, you know, the valley type of thing, like a Chinese water ink painting. That's what those are. And not grape trees, but they're going to be more pinkish. But you have to give them a base. Do you understand why I didn't color these in pink though? Because if I did pink, they're not going to have any body to it. Okay, so you have to lay down a darker base for it. Because I have my paint pens in lighter tones that I can add over the top of it. But you don't want to go dark over light. It doesn't look right, okay? So you go light over dark, like that. But you can get some pinkish tinges in there to begin with. So I have, I don't know, I probably have a dozen videos where there's pink trees. Someone posted, it's probably been 2.5 years at this point in time, but in the Facebook group, people post, photos occasionally, and they'll say, it's just photos that they've come across online somewhere, and they'll say, this here's an inspiration piece or something like that. And I think the one that I was looking at was like Mount Fuji or something like that. If you're looking at, if you guys are all on your devices and computers right now, but if you type in like Mount Fuji cherry blossoms or something like that, okay, you'll pop up. They'll pop up a bunch of, and then just go to images in your search browser, Google or whatever, and you'll see a bunch of kind of examples of that, pink blossom, kind of cherry blossom, landscape. Where is it? Someone gave me a book. Oh, yeah. Let me see. Okay, so someone sent me an inspiration book years ago, okay? Just with some things on... Now, I wasn't doing these types of things like this, but see these pink and purple things? So it's not grape trees. Grape vines don't look purple, unless you're right up next to them. See, it's like this. Here's pinkish and purplish tinges like that. But you see it all out there in nature. You just might not think about it, but it's all around you. Look at these trees right here. And what color is that? But, you wouldn't think about doing like a card in that type of scenario normally, right? Like, I'm going to color my trees these colors right here. If you just look at it like this, it's a little bit of a reddish tinge too, but these colors are all out there. It might not be in our areas or something like this, but see this right here? And these photographs in here, I don't think they're manipulated. There's a lot of photos out there that are, but this is like a real location right here. It's just a straight on. I can tell it's not been, I can look at some photos and, things that are posted, and they're like enormously manipulated. But these are all just straight on shots, from someone, that color is existing out there. They're not jacking up the saturation or anything like that. But look at this field of purple, okay, or pink. But then you see that right there, that's violet. So we need to get these things to stand out like that. But again, playing around with it. Look at this one right here. Look at that yellow right here against the pink. And this is like violet down here, right? Again, if, we stamp something else out like that, we would think probably in a lot of different ways. It's like, oh my God, what is that? That doesn't look real. Not that you have to be real, like Disney animation or something like that. It's all greatly exaggerated, but all those colors are out there, and in profusion too, the intensity of it is really quite extreme. So anyway, that being said, let's get on with some of the these tinges in here. Okay, so I might need some other pinks in here. I don't really have a super fantastic pink. These S5 or whatever, I can't even pronounce that. Pens are pretty good. They have a higher pigment to binder ratio. Binder is just water in this case. But sometimes it's so thick on there. Yeah, see, this one's like locked up like that. I'll get it unlocked, but I can get it working again. But it dries on the surface like that. But it's because the paints are so thick, which I kind of want in this case, because I want them to really stand out and kind of shimmer. Yeah, you guys need to look at more. You guys need to look at more photos, and that goes for me too. You know, I was typically doing. I wouldn't think about doing pinkish, purplish foliage, but it's out there. And again, you're not the goal of any kind of artwork. You're not out there trying to if your goal is doing something like you want to do as close as you can or come as close as you can to doing something that a camera can do like way more effectively and like in a 125th of a second. That you know, what's the point of doing kind of anything with, you know, where you're trying to inject somewhat of your personality type. Now, I know that from a skill standpoint, it wouldn't be bad to be able to do like super realistic work. But if the goal is, you know, to just become something where it's like, oh my God, that is so realistic. I thought it was a photo, you know, that's like a compliment. It'd be a compliment to me too, but I'd rather do something, you know, where it's much more kind of expressive. It can be realistic and expressive too, but, you know, if that's going to be the case, then you'd go watch a movie like, you know, any Disney movie, you know, Sleeping Beauty or something like that, and you're going to look at the background, you're going to say, well, that doesn't look like a real tree, you know, it's purple or something like that, or pink, or, you know what I mean? So that's art, you know, just in general for you. So I wouldn't get locked in too much to, let's say, kind of this concept of realism, because everything that you're doing really is kind of more impressionistic than anything, you know, that we're going to be stamping out after all. You know, we're not working with, you know, whatever, you know, the mechanics of nature or something like that, and chlorophyll and conversion of light. You know, we're working with like a dye-based ink and a marker. You know what I mean? So you want to do the things that kind of are more conducive in the spirit of the things that you're working with, you know, and some notion of kind of realism. So this is what I would do. If I was to stamp something for someone, okay, like a special scene or something like that, typically the thing that I ask them is, you know, what's your favorite color or colors, okay? And I would just go from there. I do trees. If it was blue, you know, I might do a nighttime scene where, you know, there's moonlight casting, you know, a bluish tinge over everything. So pine trees or something like that under that situation would be blue, right? Or if you're doing, you know, trees in, you know, a sunset type of scenario when you have colored light on it, it's not going to be, you know, typically green, you know what I mean? Or concrete on your driveway is not going to be whatever, gray or something like that. It's going to be the color of that light hitting it. So free yourself. I don't know. I've seen purple trees all the time, though, because I lived in Whittier, too, and there was a bunch of jacarandas in there in every springtime. Was it spring? I'm not sure if it was spring, but they were all purple. Oh, hello, Bonnie. Where's Bonnie? It's my birthday. What's your favorite color, Bonnie? Yeah. What's your address, Bonnie? We're going over there and we're gonna share in that cake with you. Just kidding. Don't post your address. Okay, now this pen right here would be ideal for this situation right here, but it doesn't really look like that. But let me see if I can get a little bit of this color down here. It's a little bit more pinkish and light, but when it dries kind of a lot more, it dries a lot more transparent, okay? And that goes for all of these different colors right here. But this is what I want to do. Do you see how these lighter shades of, in this case, kind of violet, are giving these trees dimension like this? So that's what I do, at least with opaque or slightly more opaque, you know, it's really translucent media here. Anytime you can put some kind of medium that's light and it shows up on something dark, I work from the dark to light, okay? With transparent media, which is most of the stuff that, you know, we use in stamping, you know, we use dye-based inks, alcohol inks, you know, whatever, solvent inks. Most of those are transparent, okay? So I work from light to dark, all right? Colored pencils, you would think they would be kind of a little bit more opaque than they are, you know, because they're like a waxy, almost solid, but I find them to be, you know, if I try to put like a white colored pencil on top of black, you know, I don't really see the white over it. It kind of just merges with it, if anything, or the black just shows right through it. So, I don't know. With that, you can kind of work either way, but you know, as it's dry, a dry medium. But I see it. I treat it more like a transparent medium like that. Okay, see those? All right. So that is that. That's all wet right now. Okay, it's going to dry pretty fast, but if I try to put this lighter pink right over the top of that, you know, as those trees kind of dry, this will merge in with it physically, okay? Things are kind of merging optically. You know, you put a dot next to a dot, and it kind of merges a little bit from a visual standpoint, but I don't know if you can see all that's kind of wet still. You know, these are kind of thick applications of paint. So you can kind of use that to your advantage. If something's standing out a little bit too harshly, you can kind of merge your marks together and get them to physically blend. But if you want like this one to stand out more, which I want to on this one, I'm going to let that dry a little bit. Let's see. Did you use water-based markers for the trees? Water-based. Rachel, you can't use, I don't know. You can't blend solvent-based media together, as far as I know, just 'cause it's drying too fast. So it's these two colors were in the impressions themselves. So I do that, what they call a watercolor technique on stamps. It's where you physically color a stamp, you know, a couple different colors. You blend, you know, that ink together, and then you stamp it out, okay? So that's how I did that. That's how everyone used to, these are the pens that everyone used to use in stamping, This is pre-stamp pads. Every time I say that, I feel like really ancient. But there was a time when there was no stamp pads out there. So everyone blended and did multicolor impressions with their stamps for the most part. There were outline styles of stamps out there too, just where you stamp them out and you color them with your Tombow or your Plume dual-sided pens, or something like that. But, a lot of people, use the Marvy, 1500 series pens to color their stamps and to do that. These weren't out there though, okay? So I wasn't doing like things with paint pens afterwards over the top of that, acrylic paint pens. There were white paint pens, but that was it. They didn't have all these different colors out there like this, and these multicolored packs for like extremely cheap too. Big thanks to all the the adult coloring book, fanatics that made that trend so popular. Then they started coming out with all kinds of different media for those people doing that. You walk into a Barnes and Noble or a Borders or something like that, and there was like a gazillion adult coloring books out there. But and then on places like Amazon or whatever, you have all these like super cheap packs of gel pens, watercolor markers, and paint pens, like this. I don't know if it's the adult coloring book market, but it's probably the same manufacturers that are making these pens for things like, rock art. Has anyone here done rock art before? Where you're painting rocks? Because I want to know, there were so many of these paint pen sets out there, and it seems like all of them are advertising rock art, where there's, you take those rocks and they're painting all kinds of different patterns on them. I've seen them outside, in people's yards though before. It seems like, the kids' project or something like that, but I don't know if adults are doing it too or whatever. I don't think I've known anyone to do rock art before, but there are so many sets available of these acrylic paint pens that seem to be targeting that entire audience. But I don't know. I haven't known anyone to do that. I've probably known people to stamp on top of rocks, and like in years ago, past. Where these days they would probably embellish with these types of pens, but I find that kind of fascinating, than this entire, kind of art or whatever. All right, so there is my, pinkish kind of blossoming type of things. Okay. Now this, I'm not stopping here. This is all kind of a preliminary thing for that glitter to be applied on here. But I want that glitter to kind of somewhat blend a little bit, with that background. Like I said, I feel like I'm being so heavy-handed with the use of that glitter, because I'm usually, I'm gauging my application of media for what it's going to look like, just like this, okay? But now I have this entirely new, type of surface thing that I'm adding in here that's really foreign to everything else that I'm using on here. I mean, this is really kind of so much more dimensional. It's super reflective. Right now, all this is reflective light that we're looking at right here, but this really, reflects a lot more of that lighting that's in there. And it's kind of, to me, it's kind of unpredictable too. I'm adding some of this down, and this one has this, this one's called purple right here, but in this holographic one, I'm getting all kinds of different greens on there and things like that. So, I don't know, it's kind of crazy using it for me. Just in terms of my kind of understanding of it, I feel like I'm starting off from scratch with a lot of this media in here. Yeah, some of you guys might have been using a lot of glitters and things like that, and you know, holographic embossing powders and all that type of thing. But I don't know, all that kind of, I missed all that. I missed the memo on that. I don't know, maybe I didn't miss the memo, but I've seen it before, but I don't know. I never used it. I think I didn't think it was for me. Maybe at that time, but I'm ready for it now. Yeah, did Bonnie eat cake today? A brownie, a small one. I need to make some brownies. I got a mix that I picked up at Trader Joe's that I need to make. All those mixes, it's like a lot of butter in them. Okay, so I'm adding in a little bit more texture to this lower portion, okay? These are my tiny rocks. That's the name of it. Tiny rocks small. Because there's a tiny rocks large too. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so I'm adding this texture down here because I'm going to put some of those like glitter. I mean, it's supposed to represent leaves. I'm going to put some of that down here too. Now here's the thing too. See, those are supposed to be like blossoming little things down here. I think that it would look kind of interesting to put it on this foliage down here because, that foliage down there could represent some branches of that same type of tree down here. It's just a little sapling of it. And plus it would bring some of that color down here. But I don't think I want to put these little white pink dots over the top of that because I think it would stand out too much. And it might not look like it's even like a part of this tree. So here's what I'm thinking. Maybe I'll go with, if I have one here. Yeah. So here's this purple right here, okay? It's a little bit too bluish purple, but I'll use it. Or I can also go with the 7mm one of it. I don't know, but it'd be kind of strange going with a smaller kind of little bit of foliage in the foreground and larger one like way off in the distance here, like on these trees right here that represent, whatever, 70 yards away or something like that. So, okay, so let me try some of these little purple dots on these branches down here, and I'll do it in this dark tone like that so it doesn't stand out too much, and we'll see how that looks. Bonnie Blue, any shade. Oh, you had jury duty, huh? Okay, let's see. That's the thing with band, there's so many different things too. My son started doing this sport called tricking last year, and he likes going and working out on his certain days. So if he had a performance, with band, it always drove him nuts to miss, one session of open gym where he can go and, train with his buddies. All right, I think that looks okay. So I have a little tinge of that purple, that violet right down in there. But you see it like at that, you can't even see it, you can barely see it like that. So it kind of stands out a little bit more like that at different angles. So I'll go with that for right now. Sometimes I get a little bit more gutsy as I move along in these cards and It's like, okay, that looks okay. Then I'll go a little bit more contrast and, you know, it stands out a little bit more. And then it's like, okay, that doesn't look so obtrusive. Let's keep going here and see how it goes. All right, so there's some purple down here. So we've brought down into this foreground. It added quite a bit there, but again, you know, that's like a certain angle there. So we've brought down some of that color from that background into the foreground. It is in the foreground in terms of that reflection like that, but look, when we look at it like this, you can't even see any of that violet at that angle, like at all, when viewing the card like that. But I think it's cool to have some of those tones down here from the background up in here. Okay, so I totally forgot, and I don't think this is going to work, but let's give it a shot anyways. Let's see this right here, all my rocks like that. I don't know of a way to bring in some color into these other than to spray seal it off like I did with a little bit of spray fixative and to try to use a colored pencil in there, but I think the colored pencil is going to be a little bit too harsh for that. I'm going to try to use, you know, these Prismacolors are, I guess by reputation, some of the softer of the type of the brands of colored pencils. So I'm going to try to use some of this down on this. I have a feeling it's just going to scratch off my application of the white, okay, because I didn't spray seal it with a huge slathering of spray fixative, again, because I didn't want that overspray of the spray going on to my silver cardstock and making it less reflective than it already is, just with a little bit of you know, fixative applied. So let me see here. Yeah, that's not working. This is just way too hard. If I had like I was thinking if you have one of those like Copic marker things, those little airbrushy things, then you can probably airbrush a light tone onto that. Like I could go with like a very light, like blue or something like that, or greenish tinge, just to bring a little of that in there. But the colored pencils are just way too sharp for that. So we'll just stick to it like that. I think it'll be fine. Like that. I mean, these rocks kind of stand out pretty decently. I would have liked a little bit of color in them like that. But maybe some of this kind of stuff reflects down there enough where it's not, you know, any big deal like that. It just would have been one of those little subtle types of things in there that I think would have been cool if we could do that. Okay, so here, I want to do something on this card. I really like the look of it, and I know this whole thing is to test out that glitter, but I like the way this is looking right here. And I think the time to do this is now, so I want to add in a little bit of a mistier type of look in this background, because I think that looks really good with this mystic imagery, to put that kind of cloud in between the objects in here. So, cotton ball, white ink here. You can use any brand of white ink too. This is on the white semi-gloss cardstock. You can use this could have been done on matte cardstock. It could have been done on glossy. On the glossy, you might not be able to use too much. Well, I don't know. I'm applying this very thinly with a cotton ball. So you can use like a, you know, an oil-based white pigment ink. You know, your Hero Arts, Hero Hues, you know, I don't know. Stampin' Up! Probably has, you know, a white pigment ink, you know. Any of those brands right here, but see that kind of that diffusion of light on there like that. It gives it that kind of that mistier feel, and it adds in that atmosphere into the scene like that. See that? A little on the top of that tree like that. This is where, too, if you've kind of touched a wet area of your card and you touch in here and say, oh my God, I got a, you know, big fingerprint, you put some white over the top of it. Which happens to me all the time, by the way. I get fingerprints all over my pieces. You know, you can see it like a couple out here, those little things. I'm not super careful about, my pieces. Some I probably should be a little bit more, when I'm handling this scene and there's wet ink on here, I should probably have, like a paper towel down like this, where I'm touching around like that, but I, don't. All right, so see that kind of mistier kind of, diffusion. It's not really diffusion of light. It's just I'm blocking out, some of the imagery with white, but that's what it looks like. It looks like a lot of diffused lighting in there. It looks like there's fog in the air and, light is hitting that and it's reflecting and it's, the image is getting broken up, with the, that, suspended fog in the air. So this whole thing looks a little bit more atmospheric like this. All right. So that is that. 100% cotton ball. Okay. I don't know. Let's see if a little of that kind of reads in here. It kind of reads a little bit, See, like that reflection of that rock right there, it's a little bit more diffused. So we've injected a little lighting into the scene, okay? See how my dots aren't really standing out too strongly in here? The lighter ones on top of the darker, it's because they've dried and it's become darker like that, so. But I want some, I want to see if we can inject. Oh, by the way, so see these little rocks down here, those little tiny rocks right in here? See how cool they look as little kind of rocks on the surface like that? I don't know if you can see these ones up here too. See these right up here? And you can see how they, stand out right in here against that reflected background. So it looks really dimensional like that. So the more things you kind of have down here on the surface of the water, I could stamp out a quote stamp right in here. It would look like it's floating on the surface of the water. So you want to have some little things like that down in here to stand out against that background because it kind of pushes this idea of this being water right here by having something to, lift off, above that reflected area like that. But you don't want to stamp out so much that you're blocking it out. So just a couple little elements like that really kind of helping out a lot. I have heat embossed the Cove stamp on black cardstock with white embossing. Yeah, I love the reversed imagery look on pieces. And the embossing would give it extra dimension, so that sounds pretty cool. One thing I haven't kind of experimented a lot with is metallic reverse imagery, like silver on top of black or dark blue cardstock or something like that. That's another thing that I kind of want to play around with and doing something like this. So that would be a perfect type of thing to do too, I think, with the luminous powders too, doing some of that white on dark embossing or just stamping. I think the embossing will give it a crisper image, but if we put some of this powder on top, that glow powder or something like that, I think that could look pretty cool now that I think about it. Unless it just stands out so much that it kind of, it looks too heavy-handed. I don't know. Wow, you're having so much snow that your kid has been just at home on snow days or something like that? Yeah, the pan pastels, Rachel, I think that might work. Something nice and soft, especially if you can apply it with like a cotton ball or something like that. Yeah, chalk like that. Anything that's coming out of like a vehicle like this, a stick and it's hard. It was just, as I was going into this, it was like, all I'm doing is I'm just scraping off the white. I wasn't scraping off the black because that was in the StazOn. So, yeah. Okay, so let's try something on here. Let's see if I can destroy the scene now effectively with some of this glitter. So in the ideal sense, okay, as I apply some of this into some of these trees right here, It'll provide me with a little bit more contrast and sparkle, with these blossoms on here. I guess it doesn't really represent leaves. It represents blossoms on here. But I'll get a little bit more contrast in here. The thing that I'd kind of hoped that I can get with, pens like this. That pen, I mean, this really stands out like this. Okay, now I can build up more on here, but I don't want to go too heavy-handed where there's just a gazillion, these dots just slathered onto this background like that. But you see this pink really looks pretty good when it's been freshly applied like that. Okay. So it's standing out a lot more here. I'll do it on this other side too. But it just never retains that degree of opacity when dry. And again, I mean, sometimes it's good because it blends in with the, your composition really nicely. It harmonizes with the background on there. But, that was when I first started doing it. Now it's like, okay, I kind of know where I want my dots to be, or, my contrast and my highlights to be. And I just kind of want it to be a little bit more true to what it looks like when freshly applied than sitting around. It's like, oh, wait, what happened to it? Is that the way that it looked? Because I tend to go through that type of thing. No, it could be. Now, when I do this on top of a less absorbent type of paper too, like a, holographic sticker paper or something like this, that paint really just stays on the surface. It's not getting absorbed into the paper at all. The water from the acrylic ink isn't getting absorbed into the pulp of the paper, and I think it stays a little bit more truer to its freshly applied look. But I don't know. It doesn't really stay that way for me on this. And again, I think now that I'm thinking about it, I think I was going to do something where maybe I spray sealed the back of this first, and I think I was going to experiment with applying some of the acrylic paint over the top of that without having so much of that absorbent factor. Okay, but I don't know. I forgot about, I think I've thought about doing that before. Okay, so let's add, so I'm going to let this dry a little bit now too. And I'll work on that lower section, but let's apply some of these. Oh, this is that S-Phi one. Let me apply some of these blossoms on some of these foreground trees, okay? Or, I don't know, whatever, midground trees, like this. Because I want some of this glitter down in that lower section, so we have it up in the trees like this, in this area down on these rocks. And then this lower section is going to represent kind of, those petals kind of floating around in the water down here. Okay, so let's put some of those down in paint first, like this. Okay, so I'll go something like that. All right. It really stands out a lot, but remember, it's going to be competing with that, so now you don't see those little pink dots as much, right? Because those pink, instead of it being against something super dark like that, it's reflecting this black here. It's reflecting that, so you get these little petals of pink, whatever, blossoms in the water like that, okay? And then we'll try to jack it up a little bit more with some glittery glitter things in there. I'm laughing because I'm thinking, is that going to really be like really obtrusive looking? But hey, it's all in the name of progress, right? You gotta, you gotta be prepared, potentially, for something to not look good at all. You know what I mean? It could look horrible in the worst case scenario, okay? In the worst case scenario, though, all right, it doesn't look right at all. It kind of, you know, maybe is okay a little bit, but, you know, maybe not so much. You can see the glitter on there, and it wouldn't be a, you know, a problem just to, you know, just flake it all off, you know, just take a pen or something, you know, a X-Acto blade, or, you know, I would take my little scratch knives here, and I would just, you know, I would just flake it all off. I'm not going to slather the whole thing with glitter. It's just going to be kind of here and there initially, and then if I like it, I can always add more. All right, this is still a little bit wet in here. I don't want to apply it right now because it's going to stick to the wet acrylic paint that's been applied down there, okay? Same thing like this, or is it? Yeah, let's go in this lower section here first. And see, here's my thing too. It's like, what one of these do I want to go with? Here's mauve pink. This is hot pink neon. Let's go with the mauve. I think it's a little bit more subtle, maybe. Okay. So my precision craft glue here. All right, let me put, I'm going to put this with some of that pink acrylic paint, okay? So, why am I getting air bubbles out of that? Huh. All right, I don't want to be too delicate with this. After all, it was kind of the purpose of doing this, so... Okay, I'm adding a few more in here. And... like I said, we can always add more. Okay. Oh! I didn't think I took off this thing yet. So this is the chunky glitter here. So some of it is really small. It's like the size of a grain of sand, you know, something that we would associate more with glitter. And the other sizes are a little bit larger. They're like a hexagon size. And then they have it interspersed with these little hexagon-sized glow-in-the-dark bits, okay? All right. Those little tiny kind of powdery pieces really, you can see it where they're adhered to it. Oh, they're not adhered to it, but they're just kind of on there with kind of like static, you know, static adhesion. Like that. All right, let's take this and let's get off some of that excess around there. Okay. I'm just going to dab this really gently here so that I'm not wiping off the bits that are adhered to a piece, you know, a drop of glue. I can't really tell in some of this though. Okay, now I know there's a ton more glitter on here than what I applied. Here, I just wiped that, moved that one. I had a bunch of glue I just dragged over there. So some of this might have stuck. Oh, I know it did. A lot of it stuck to the that acrylic paint, those pink little droplets that I added down here. Okay. So do I still see some of that? I don't know if I might have completely obscured a lot of that pink acrylic paint there like that. Okay. So here we have it like that. I think that's okay though. So it really stands out a lot like that. But again, this is kind of the view of it like that. I need to add on more of that acrylic again because all of the glitter stuck to all of that acrylic in there. I think that looks pretty good though. Here, let me take some of this. I was telling someone on that when I was playing around with some of that gold glass, crushed glass from was it last week? I find myself, or I found myself like putting every little bit of, that gold back into the container, almost like, I don't know, like I felt like I was like handling like gold or something like that, like real gold in my mind. All right, so let's get a few more of these dots applied in here. We'll have some flashy types of floating blossoms down here. I'll put some of this here. Okay, so in lieu of not being able to color my rocks down here, I'll put a couple little of these blossoms down here on these rocks, like that. All right, so you get some of that. See some of these little blossoms down here, like that have floated in the wind, and plus there could be another overhanging tree right here, dropping down into the water like that. But here we go with the, those little bits down in here. So in here, those little things stand out a little bit more. It looks like there's more in the water. I think it looks pretty good. I think it looks reasonably glassy, and I think these little things like this that have a little bit more contrast in there, like that, and are whatever light reactive, I think that helps the illusion of this as being, this watery surface like that. So I think it looks okay like that. All right, so let's take a look at these trees up here. I need to wait again. Here, I'll heat set this a little bit. This one pen right here was like all water or something like that, so it's like super juicy up here. And if I try to apply some of that glitter on that right now, the whole thing is, it's going to be stuck to the entire tree. All right, okay, I don't like heat setting this, my pieces too much because I tend to think that the card starts bowing a little bit, even with being kind of a little bit more delicate on it. So I just remembered on something like this too, down here. I didn't add any kind of highlighting on here, so I can't add in shadows in here. I can't really shade smoothly with, like a paint pen either, but I can highlight really easily with the paint pen. So I'm going to add some highlights into this. That looks white like this, but if I add in some just straight, white acrylic paint, it's a little bit more opaque, so it should give my, my rocks a little bit more dimension. Let's see. Let me see if there's been some questions on here. Sorry, I haven't been watching here. Let's see. Yeah, Pan Pastel. A couple of you have mentioned that one. I think that could work. Someone give that a try and let us know how that works. Do they make glow-in-the-dark embossing powder? I think they do, right? Do I have some of it? I thought I might have had some of that at one time. I don't know if I just saw it somewhere. Or am I thinking about the holographic embossing powder? You would think someone somewhere along the line would have put out some glow-in-the-dark embossing powder. I don't know. Did anyone answer that, by the way, after that? The Zig Glue two-way pen. Yeah, someone asked me about that. It might have been you, Bonnie. I haven't heard of, I don't have that. I need to take a look at that, though, for some of these other things, though. Okay, so Ginger says yes to the glow-in-the-dark embossing powder. Does it work? The glow-in-the-dark embossing powder, it seems like, as I get to more familiarized with, these types of powders, it seems like we have to use quite a bit of it to really, reflect for a good amount of time. Okay, and I need to get this pen really flowing freely on here. For it to stick. Okay. See, as I start using some of this white pen on here, I need to be careful because, again, it is a plastic sharp point, you know, and I need to make sure that I'm not, you know, kind of gouging out some of the media that's already on the surface and blocking that, you know, the flow of the, you know, the flow of the paint here. Okay, so see now right there, there's just some little highlights on some of these rocks right in here. I'm putting this little dot of light or white on the top surface of these rocks in here. So I guess, and you know, that's another thing too. If you can't shade, but you can highlight, that's also something that makes, you know, for a little bit more of a, you know, three-dimensional look. Or contributes to a three-dimensional look, just like shading would be. Or could have been if we could do that. So, yeah. I don't know, maybe the pan pastels. So if you do pan pastels on here and shade it again, you just have to, one of the bad things about that is you just have to spray seal it again. And, you know, perhaps getting some of that spray seal, the acrylic spray sealant, on the top of that silver paper, making it less kind of mirrored, you know, mirror-like. But again, maybe just, you know, just hit it very lightly or, you know, mask off some of the area that, you know, where you want your strongest reflections to be. Okay, let me get these rocks. I'm going to do it from this side right here. As opposed to putting my hand down and, you know, there from the bottom side. So you always just turn your card in the direction where it's the most conducive for, you know, applying whatever you're applying to it. Okay, so we have that. Hopefully those rocks look a little bit more dimensional. It's a little bit heavy-handed right here because I couldn't tell because I'm applying the white and I got that glare on it like that, but now like that, it's a little bit contrasty here. Let me blend that out a little bit. One of the funniest things about that I read when I posted, not the silver one, but this kind of reminds me of it. When I was working, you know, posting some scenes using the holographic cardstocks, you know, the really kind of trippy ones and really super three-dimensional looking ones, you know, like this type of thing or whatever. Someone posted on, I think it was Stamp Junkies. They don't work with the holographics because it made them dizzy. You know, it made them dizzy looking at that, you know, that paper like that, you know, and probably having the light kind of flashing in their eyes and things like that. All right, so that's what we have right there. So a little bit more dimension in this area down here. I think these rocks, I think that looks fine with the rocks like that, you know, without the shading on there. You know, the thought of having to spray seal again, it's kind of a drag, so I think it's just a little bit of the, you know, if you guys have the white paint pen at this point in time, just put a little highlighting on your foreground rocks and just avoid having to do the shading, you know, completely. And I think that would be good. Okay, I was going to do some highlights down here, but that would make me have to wait for the that to dry again. Okay, let me hit this with a little bit more heat. Okay, it's bowing a little bit. Hopefully that when it cools down, it's not, you know, that way. But okay, that still looks a little bit moist. I'm gonna just go for it though. I don't want to wait. Unless that acrylic is just shiny. It feels pretty dry. Okay, let's see how this looks on these trees right here. Hopefully that chunkiness of it isn't too crazy on these kind of more distant, you know, whatever, mid-ground trees right here. I really like the way that this glitter looked on those aspen trees though. You know, in yellow. So hopefully the pink on these ones will look kind of cool. And then, you know, I mean, if it does, then, I mean, it really opens the door up for kind of maybe what would be the most kind of natural, if we can call it natural, is, you know, put glitter over a bunch of things. It would be the fall types of foliage, you know, and, you know, whatever, maple trees, ash trees, you know, with that golden, you know, reddish golden, you know, warm tones, fall tones. That would be pretty interesting, I think. All right, so I applied, you know, a big slathering of it. Let's let that kind of sit for a little bit here. Did you know that they have glow-in-the-dark crystals, powder, glitter in one? I don't know if I knew that. I haven't been, like, shopping around for this type of stuff, you know? It's always occurred to me that, you know, like something would be kind of interesting or something like that. I didn't know about the crushed glass either. But that sounds pretty interesting, Linda. Do you have that, Linda? A lot of people are telling me, you know, when I've applied some of this glitter, a lot of people are telling me, hey, I got that glitter, you know, it's probably, you know, it's buried at the bottom of my, you know, supplies or something like that. You know, I've been buying glitter for 20 years or something like that, but they haven't used it in a while. So, I think a lot of people have a lot of this stuff. You know, I don't know, when did that glow in the dark, like embossing powder come out, Ginger? Has it been out there for a long time? Maybe that type of thing, you know, it's been out there for longer than not, because, you know, more people were embossing, you know, years and years ago than that, you know, that probably seem to be embossing now. Okay, I forgot to. I'm going to put some of that, a couple of those leaves on these rocks right here. I'm saying that as now I'm thinking about it, like as a question. Yeah. Okay, so let's put a few pieces down like that. The stamp store owner in Buena Park, her store name was Toad Hall because she liked frogs. She started a company that was like all glitter based. It was just like all kinds of different glitters after she closed her store. So Terry, this one's for you. Okay. It's funny, you know, you put this little dot of glue down and it's really tiny. And in my mind, I'm thinking that, okay, one piece of glitter is going to fall on it and adhere to it. But the thing is, if this is like a magnified glue dot right here, the thing that that didn't occur to me is that, so that here's a piece of glitter that hit it like this and it's stuck to it in the corner. And here's another one, and here's another one, and here's like another one on there. So there might be like 4 pieces of glitter stuck to that one thing of glue. So maybe I need to make like smaller little dots of glue But I want them, but I want them to adhere to it. So it's like if I put down a tiny little dot, you know, is this glitter going to stick to it? Because there's like a cluster of like these little bits here all over where I've applied, like, there's a, I don't know, it seems like there's 12 pieces of glitter in this multi-size, you know, mix of it that are stuck on every little 1/2 millimeter, I don't know, whatever, 1 millimeter dot of glue. So I need to figure that out too, because I want to get kind of a little bit control over my quantity application of it over time. I think I need to do like 10 of these, and I think I'll get the kind of the gist of it. At least with this glitter right here, because this is the multi-size, multi-shape, multi-kind of textured one, because that glow-in-the-dark one is like this little piece of, I'm guessing like a vinyl or something like that, where all these other pieces are like a clear, plastic or something like that. Okay, so anyways, this is what this looks like here. Right there in those trees. I think it looks pretty cool. What do you think? And it's not so obtrusive. Like when I'm looking at it like this, you can't even see it. This is like normal light. So if someone just happens to turn it like this and see it's flashing down here like that. So it's like, it's not always on, which I kind of like. It's like there's like an off, on-off button or something like that, okay? So here you get it like this. And here's the landscape like that. So you got those on the rocks like that, and it's reflecting down there. There's a couple down there already, too. Maybe I didn't need to put that down there because it's already reflecting off those rocks in there. But see, like that little thing like that? See, it's just like a nothing rock right there, but then you turn it like this. And what I like is that, the lights come on right in there. Or this area down here that wouldn't be interesting, maybe just like that. It's just kind of like a spot, it glistens. It's kind of interesting, though, that holographic coloring of it, though. Because it definitely looks like it's just pink to me like that, okay? But it's holographic, so it's capturing some of that. Look at that green light flash, like right in here. On that otherwise purple, pinkish glitter like that. That's what's kind of one of the most bizarre things to me. Good or bad, I don't know. Would I want it to flash just all pink? Maybe, in terms of control, but then, I don't know, maybe it looks better having those other colors in there just for, there's a wider kind of palette in there. I think it wouldn't be bad to have a couple little things down here, but maybe that would be overkill. Because I already get that kind of twinkling light down in the trees from, reflecting in here. And maybe it's good just to have some kind of flat, rocks in here, against those reflections in there. I don't know. But I don't know. I think that looks pretty cool. I don't know. And there's other kinds of glitter too, You can go with just a straight pink. I should probably look into some other colors too. Just straight, whatever color it is, and not that holographic aspect of it. I'm kind of curious to know if I captured any of the glow in the dark. The glow in the dark on these ones, it's kind of it's minimal because you have to have, unless you're doing a much larger slathering of this. Okay, so like I said, I think they targeted some of those people doing those resin pours. Okay, so you're going to mix this in with some resin, like a whole bunch of it, right? And then you're going to pour it out in whatever mold, and you're going to have all these, like a lot of this suspended in there, not just like I don't know, whatever, 100 pieces of that glitter, but, there's whatever, 500 or 1,000 of it, like in this 1/3 of a bottle like that. And that'll probably glow pretty good. But on a card like this, when I took it into the, a dark room and I shut off lights, there was like 1 or 2 little glowing bits of it, and the rest were this like glitter, like it's on the back of my hand right there. It's more of that kind of just straight, glitter material like that. So whatever it is, foil or whatever, glitter foil. So I don't know, I should probably put, I could probably put some little character in here, a little fishing boat or something like that. Maybe they would be too small for that. But, I can put like a little deer or something like that standing on these rocks here in the foreground, and that might be kind of interesting. I think like this, I'd want something larger. But I'll think about it. But anyways, there you go. Flashes of it's like light without electricity on these cards, which I kind of like. Do you have lizard stamps to go with your cacti? There is a lizard. Is it in the first set or the second set? Okay, so this is the, speaking of that, yeah, the lizard is in the first one. I think I have a desert iguana. Did I do that one? I put a, this is just the next set that's coming out. I should post that on the site right now, but in this small section right here, I put a bighorn sheep in here. When I thought about it, it was in one of those the live streams that we were doing. It occurred to me, oh, I need to do a bighorn sheep, so I squeezed them into the set. So this set's going to be really jacked up with imagery. So there's going to be 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16 images in this set right here. It's almost like $1 each, for each stamp like that. But I think the lizard is in the first one. Is there? I think I did lizard, right? Anyway, let's see here. Does anyone have any questions right here? Are you talking about the laser iridescent paper, the opal glitter medium? I think Linda was talking about the glittery stuff, right? Or, unless that was for some other thing. I stabilize pan pastels with water-based hairspray. Ah, okay. That's a good idea. So it doesn't mute out your mirrored area there with that spray then? What spray is that? Because that's what everyone always wants to know. What brand of hairspray is that? Right? We want to know a brand of water-based hairspray that isn't going to affect the mirrored aspect. Oh, no, that's not on mirrored. That's on, you're just saying you use it on, your white paper, right? Or wait. But, well, no, you're talking about the reflection though, right? Yeah, what is that? What is that one? We want to know that, that hairspray there. If we can be, here, I'm trying to prop this up here. Let me use a stamp here instead of those little pads. Like that. Here we go, like that. That's like at a 45-degree angle like that. Let's see. Glad you like it, Bugs, Debbie. Bugs, I used, the Barely Art Precision Craft Glue. It's the glue that, I don't know, you guys told me to get. I was using this 20-year-old Mono Aqua glue. And it was like, I was applying all those crystals using that. And it was like driving me nuts. And I didn't even know about this, that little precision type of thing on the glue thing. Because I hadn't been gluing things, I hadn't been doing like any kind of glue applications, like in the history of my stamping at all. So I never needed glue. So I don't know, that's the glue that everyone told me to get on these, on the message boards. It was this one. There was the Barely Art one, but then someone told me this other glue too. So I said, well, which one's better, the Barely Art or the other one? Because I was getting like 50-50, and someone told me it's the same thing. So I don't know. I just got this one. But I don't know, someone, Bonnie told me, was mentioning the Zig pen too. Or was that for another application there? I use the glow-in-the-dark paste that Tim Holtz has, but it's the only glow-in-the-dark product I've used. Yeah. We haven't just, there's a lot of applications. I tried to find my glow-in-the-dark printable vinyl, and I couldn't find it. I have it somewhere. I just bought one pack of it, but it was extremely expensive. It was like $1 a sheet or something like that, and I'm not even sure if it was 8.5 by 11. I guess it would probably be, right? Because if it's going through a printer, you'd want a standard size. But I want to play around with some of that, and these powders to me are really intriguing. I wouldn't really use these ones for the glowing aspect of it. I guess it could be just this bonus thing where if you have it kind of glittery, like a night sky or something like that, and a few of them are glowing, then that's fine. But I really want to get a really good application going with these glow-in-the-dark powders and, my glow-in-the-dark paint. I've applied them very poorly, in my initial tests, but and I just think that we could do, some cool little things with it. So this is just this one isn't great in terms of it being like a finished scene or anything like that. I think if I put in some like clouds in the background, just with some white pigment ink and that torn paper towel technique on this one, I think it would look okay. But this in itself right here, look how chunky what it looks like, what it basically is almost like we've sprinkled white detailed embossing powder over the top of the stamps, and you don't emboss it. That's, the look that this has. So it doesn't inherently have a very good look at all under just normal lighting. This is all about taking it into, a dark room and flipping off the lights on something like this. So I need to find out some kind of medium in here. And, now I think about it, I think the clouds in here in the background would be kind of cool. But I wouldn't have them glowing. They would just be white clouds to go against this chunky, kind of soft, powdery surface like this. I need to spray seal this down too still. And I'll do that with, the spray sealant on that. But I don't know. I want some glow in the dark applications. It really takes me back to when I was a kid. Loved glow in the dark types of stuff. And playing around with that type of thing. Charging stuff up, taking it into, seeing it under a different type of light. Just enjoying some sort of card and in a completely different situation. How many cards have we made that, look really cool in the, the dark? I don't know, maybe Bugs, you've probably done, some of those LED cards or something like that. You're always working with the train stuff. You're probably doing stuff with the actual LED cards or anything. I don't know. Has anyone done those LED cards where there's a little switch on the side, you're clicking it and, the light comes on? But I love that look, but, sometimes when I'm doing cards, I just don't really feel like putting that amount of time into it and getting that whole new different set of things. I think those little LEDs are like really inexpensive now these days. You buy like them in bulk, like in a pack of like 100 or something like that. Yeah, it's the ginger. Yeah, 20 some odd years ago. 2000 something. But early 2000s, yeah, when more people were doing embossing, they were coming out with like all kinds of different embossing types of powders, and so many different companies had them too. I would take some care of not worrying about the gluing part. Okay, so Linda, it might help to rub the cardstock with a dryer sheet. Oh, just like the embossing. Yeah, the embossing powders. I'll try that sometimes. Yeah, to take out that static cling. Don't we all have the anti-static powder? Someone told me about that, yeah, when I was playing around with the embossing. So I didn't know about any of that stuff in there. Glad you like it, Ginger and Jeannie. One in a bag and one with a brush on it. Okay, the scene, looks great. I love the glitter face. Red heart shaped. Glad you like it, Cynthia. Let's see. The new stamp set is good. Oh, the desert one. Aquanet. Okay, so that's, yeah, the Aquanet hairspray. And it doesn't, maybe, I didn't know that Aquanet would be like a water-based. I didn't know any of those kind of aerosols are water-based. Or is it is it not an aerosol one? Yeah, that Aquanet's been around a long time, huh? The Aquanets too. Isn't it like one of the cheaper sprays too? I'm trying to think of the spray that we used to buy for the middle school art program when they were doing their dry pastels or their charcoals. We would, to save money in that art program, we'd get the hairsprays for that. I can't remember if it was the Aquanet, but it sounds familiar. And I'd get it at Target, wherever it was. Okay, the glow-in-the-dark embossing powder is like the powders you have. You need a lot, so it can really hold light. That's the thing. Yeah. That's that embossing powder. So these powders too. These powders are the same way. You really need to have a decent amount of it down, unless we're going for something really subtle. But I tried for subtlety and just applying it on tops of some imagery, and it was just like it was way too subtle. So it was like, okay, if we're going for glow in the dark, I think we might as well. We need to go with something nice and bold. I think, so that it has good light retention. We don't want to take it into dark, charge it up in the light for 5-10 seconds or something like that. You flip off the light and it disappears. It's glowing for all of like 2 seconds. That's no good. So we need to come up with some, different types of applications, I think, where it's really going to look cool. Or we can do some things where we're painting on, something like this, I think, and then applying maybe some more powder over the top of that, or using this type of thing to apply either just the straight powder or the embossing powder to, because I would think this would, this paint would be fine for using with the embossing powders, I'm guessing, to get more light retention, but maybe we can go for kind of more, kind of expressive applications of that type of powder. So okay, so something like that too. As I painted it on, and I thought I went for a little bit of a transition thing, but then when I applied the powder, it would look really thick again. So again, it goes down to what I was mentioning earlier. I was mentioning, if you just joined in the beginning of this, I was mentioning that when I'm applying these types of things, or these glow-in-the-dark powders especially, I feel like I'm being like really heavy-handed with my applications of them, just to be effective with it. So, I mean, this is kind of a subtle use of that, the glitter on those trees like that, although it looks like there's a pretty big slathering of it, but there's not a huge amount of it. But if I just go for like a couple little things, sometimes if it's not capturing the light, I can't even see it. So see that amount of it right there, you can see just how much glitter is down there. So if I look at it closely, it looks like it's this big built up kind of slathering of, multi-layered glitter in that area like that. Where if I look at it at a certain angle, it's just really too much, or without any light and I'm looking at it, it doesn't, it doesn't look good, I guess, like that. But again, I don't think, we're not viewing our card, with this like 5 inches from our eye or 10 inches, where we're just seeing it, that one little area in there. So I guess that, but I think that's what we need to do to get that, that type of effect like that on there. And again, it's especially with the glow in the darks, for the light retention aspect of it, it really needs to have a lot of that media applied to it. So it just doesn't look, you know what I mean? We're sacrificing some of the, whatever, the subtlety of just regular lighting on here for the purpose of these other little special effects, like, that look cool under certain light. And the glow in the dark, under completely black, darkness or something like that. So I don't know. That's what I was thinking, I'm not going to try to mix like some of this at this point in time when I don't have any control over it, you know. I don't feel like I have a good handle on it. But I could see like little glow in the dark kind of things on the rocks in here, you know, or in here, you know, where you'd flip off the light and maybe these would be glowing in here a little bit. I think that would be really cool, but what does that look like under normal lighting? Does it look like it's just gigantic slathering of powder like that that would really detract from the look of this under just regular normal lighting? I don't know. So I don't know. I'm having to play this game of kind of trade off, you know, trading off one thing for another at this point in time, you know. But again, I've just, you know, this like glitter and all these powders like this, like I feel like I'm starting from scratch in a lot of ways, or I guess I am, you know, because I just haven't used it before, and it's so different. It's not just playing around with like a paint pen in a different color or a, you know, I don't know, my pastel pencil that I've been using lately on those matte papers and things like that. This is like really, you know, something a lot more foreign of a thing like that. I think, you know, but, you know, these initial little tests like this, I think they're pretty cool. You know, that Aspen one, I mean, have to practice with it or anything like that, but, you know, when I look at it like just like that, I know it's out of focus right here, but you can see all that glitter on there. I mean, that doesn't look good, you know, because it's like dark like that. But, you know, this is like the first test, you know, little experiment with I think that, you know, where I didn't know what I was doing at all and just didn't feel like I had any control of it. I think that looks pretty decent like that. So, you know, I mean, that was what I was kind of going after in that one. So it's not like, oh my God, it's so delicate a thing and, you know, kind of, you know, precarious or anything like that. But what I'm saying is I just don't feel like I have like a lot of control over it at this point in time because I don't know what I'm going to get, you know, after the application of it. But learning a little bit more with each one though. Yeah. I'm going to put that new one up for pre-order here. So it's coming in pretty fast. They got it out. I just uploaded it to my engraver like last night, and they already shipped it out via priority. So I'll try to get that posted. Maybe I can get around to it tonight or something like that. I'll have a pre-sale, you know, little discount going on it or something like that. But this one's, you know, we're going to, Jack, you get anyone that picks up this set here, you're going to have a ton of, like I said, there's that bighorn sheep that I squeezed into this little area like this. I'm hoping my rubber guy doesn't charge me extra because there's like a huge amount of imagery on this one right here. So, but these are all the little things that I want after using that first set in there. Someone kept mentioning the Ocotillos and the Saguaros. There's a lot of other saguaro imagery out there too, but I wanted it in these different sizes because I wanted stuff in the distance like that. But I want all these little critters like this in there to utilize. And what I'm finding is when I'm using these desert images, when I'm stamping scenes out, I like all these little things like this. Like, normally I do like one kind of focal point. You know, if it's like one deer, I don't want like a deer over there and a rabbit over here, you know, and a fox and a wolf, you know what I mean? All over the place and birds in the sky. But I find that with the desert stuff like this, I don't know, you know, they're supposed to be like all camouflaged or something like that. But it looks pretty good with like using a bunch of like different animals because they kind of blend in with the, you know, whatever the foliage on there is, something like that. And I needed that little bit like that as a little bush, you know, in the back of things, in the front of things, you know, to use with, you know, some rocks or other things like that too. Because there's often like, you know, little blooming, you know, foliage out there in between these different, you know, kind of more dominant desert flora out there. So that's what that one's for, you know. That it occurred to me that I needed that when doing, you know, stamping out that previous, you know, the existing, you know, Desert One set right here. So, anyways, there's Desert One set. A lot more larger images on this one, but on the other one, I did all those kind of filler images like that. So I can't wait to get that other set in there, and you know, use them together too. Yeah, Rachel. Yeah, I'm with you there. You know, I used to get, so I'm walking around the house there. It's like, oh, I got the, you know, glitter. I got the, you know, glitter on my forehead, you know, walking around the house. I've got glitter all over the place here. So I don't know. I guess I just have to accept that. I've got glitter on my tack and peel. You know, it's sticking to the tack and peel everywhere. But hey, you know, I don't know. It used to drive me nuts because it would be all over my stamps at conventions because people would go do make and takes and they would get all in the envelopes of stamps, you know, for the mounted stamps and everything like that. And then you get those little tiny bits of glitter, you know, those really fine ones. And like this, they're all stuck in like the details of my rubber like that. So, but I don't know. Is it worth it? You know, you tell me, you know. You know, it's pretty fun, you know. Here's the thing for me, okay? I don't know if I'm going to be using it on all of my scenes going forward or, you know what I mean, on 50%, 20% of them or something like that. But when I do look at this like this, and I imagine this scene without the glitter and that additional kind of effect and light and shimmery little light in there, it might look like it's kind of missing something to me if I did the same type of scenario later. Maybe I'd do like a stronger focal point in here with a deer, you know what I mean? Or some little person in here or something like that. But no, I mean, when I look at this, and maybe because it's just, you know, I'm just doing this for the first time, you know, over this last week of using just glitter in general, or maybe it's the first time that I've used it with these stamps right here in this scenario, but all I'm doing is I'm looking at that glitter is the thing that I'm looking at in both the reflected light up here or the reflection of the reflected light in the lower section there. So, but yeah, if I if I can get kind of some cool, you know, little effects like that without that, you know, and getting all that glitter all over the place, that would be preferable. It's like I used to say, you know, when hiking out in the nature and everything like that, going out with friends, you know, I'd say, you know, the joke was, hey, anything for the shot. So I'd send people out to, you know, hey, can you stand on that ledge over there? Or go over there and sit on the edge of that ledge, you know what I mean? Or something like that. And it was anything for the shot, you know? So in card making like this, so anything for the effect, you know, to get, you know, the effect that we're going for or whatever. And that glitter is a pretty good way to get that super reflective, flashy light happening in here, you know? I mean, look at that, just that one little bit of foil like that, even if it didn't have this reflection card area of it. That's really kind of bringing that little, it looks like that little, they look like little gems and jewels in these areas right here. Isn't it funny? It's the same color used up there and it's kind of pinkish over that purplish. And down here on these rocks where I've used some of that green, it's like more greenish in tinge. So that's just one glitter I need to look into. There's probably, you know, there's probably whatever, 6 other different types of varieties like that. Okay, so bugs, those are the mystic trees. You know, you probably have them. I don't know if you have them, but there's this one right here. And I just used this right here. Okay, and I just went with the same one. Okay, so this is like this way though. Okay, so there it is right there for that impression. And then here it is over here again on the right, left side. And then, so that these don't look so symmetrical, I just stamped this again right there. And see how I did it a little bit lower like that? It's just so it's not so, you know, monotonous at the same height. And then I had this big open area in here, and then that was the those mystic, I forgot the name of them all, so Mystic Hills in the background. Yeah, I got that around here somewhere. I don't know where it went, but it's the left side of that right back in here. I mean, you could have just, you know, I could have went with another tree, like even lower like this, like down here. You can do something like that as well, but I wanted to have some of that color transitioning in the background like that. Okay, so big open area like that, which I wouldn't really want. Okay, speaking of this scene, just in terms of the structuring of it. But again, you know, we kind of need that a little bit for that reflection area like that to just kind of leave things a little bit more sparse up here, you know, in the background, especially like right here, you know, so you can see this nice clear reflection of these trees because you can see the trees start, you know, the farther away that you get from this intersection of top scene and, you know, silver cardstock in this case, the more diffused, see, the more see, that looks pretty crisp right there, that reflection of that rock right there. But the more you get apart from this, see, this becomes more distant like this. It becomes more foggy, so, you know, having that kind of negative space around in here. So just keeping really things really simple in a reflection card. The reflections of those objects are a lot more distinct because you can see it's all fuzzy like that, you know, the farther you get away from it. So, and having something kind of darker like that too helps. So, you know, if you're doing a reflection jar, just keep these areas up here fairly sparse from what I've found, you know what I mean? And it looks more kind of effective in that reflective area. I stocked faux years at Christmas. Oh, yeah. Had everything had glitter on it. I would come home and Jory would ask if I was dancing. That's funny. Happy birthday again, Bonnie. I think it will look pretty flat now. With that's the problem, Linda. You know, now that we've done this, you know, without we open up a a whole can of worms here that's that we can't return from. I was mentioning in the past, when I started using paint pens, I never went back. I had to use paint pens on everything for those little kind of reflective light effects. And then when I started playing around with that whole idea of kind of fog in the background, just lightly applying some pigment ink with a cotton ball, I really apply that on a lot of different things, going forward. I just can't seem to get away from it because I really like that detail like that, or the contrasts and texture. But this glitter, having something that's that reflective in there, maybe we'd have more control over it using like a glitter gel pen too, and then we wouldn't have all that glitter all over the place. And there's so many different colors of glitter gel pens that are like super inexpensive too. Maybe I need to pull those out. I didn't use those. And I have a gigantic set of gel pens. When I started using the acrylic paint pens, they work so much better on pieces because I don't have to worry about that rolling aspect of it and the gel pens kind of clogging up as I work on them. You can get them flowing. Gel pens these days are really good because you can get them flowing again really well because they use like a thinner gel in them now, so they're not so thick, so they don't clog up permanently. I'm talking about most of them that I've tried. At least for a few years. Okay, I don't know, they're going to last for 10 years or something like that, just sitting around, but they all work pretty well. But anyways, those multicolor sets, I bought like a set of 180 pens, and they came with 180 refills for those, each one of those colors. And it was like, I don't know, it's like 20 some odd dollars, for 180 colors. But it's got the whole range of the glitter ones. Okay, so I forgot to do some of the highlighting in here with my white gel pen on those rocks like that, so a little bit more dimensional. But yeah, maybe the I mean, it's not going to have the same glittery type of effect as like these larger chunks of foil glitter in there, but it might be pretty cool. And then they have the metallics in those gel pens too. I don't know, maybe I need to bust those out. Anyway, who knew that Pandora had glitter in her box? I know, huh? Can I stay away from the glitter? I don't know. We'll see. All right, folks. Thanks for joining in. If you're watching on YouTube, and you've posted anything, I hope I didn't miss anything. If you've been watching on Facebook and you've posted a question or something like that, sorry about that. But I do go on to the Facebook posting of it, and I'll answer any questions if those came up during that simultaneous live stream. Have a great rest of evening. Happy B-Day to Bonnie. I've seen some use of stickles. Okay, so I haven't done... I have those stickles somewhere. I think I gave them all to my wife at one time, so I'd have to go into her room and grab them, but she doesn't use them, though. My stickles are going to be like 20 years old, though, if not like 25. So I wonder if they're still flowing. A lot of them probably haven't been used yet. So yeah, the stickles. If I get those stickles, if I have some pink stickles, I'll go and add those up here. Does everyone know what stickles are? If you have, I don't know if stickles are still around, but it's basically these little tubes of like glitter paint. I don't know if they're paint, but yeah, all glitter infused. So looks pretty. I think it'd work on here. Just using one type again. I mean, it might not be the answer to that. So we can go for probably some different types of textural, whatever, glittery effects on there. So one glitter, isn't for all. Just like we'd use a different color for other things or something like that, or maybe different sizes of glitter for background and foreground types of application. Look at that. See, I like that. My hand just kind of moving around, and it makes that little sparkly thing like that down there. But yeah, maybe different glitter, different scale of glitter and sizes or whatever for different areas within a card too. Background, foreground. It makes sense, to not use the same scale of glitter and something that's whatever 100 yards away is, as whatever supposed to be like 5 feet or something like that. So yeah. All right, folks. Thanks for joining in. Great to have you. And I hope you like the card. And bust out that glitter. Get we need like a little vacuum too. I need like a dust buster around my work area again, or not again, but now, using this type of stuff.